Hey guys, welcome to Cape and Cowl Café. I'm Nemo, and today we're going to be going over your guys' Superman hot takes. If you guys enjoyed the video at any point today, I'd really appreciate if you hit that like and subscribe button, but let's just hop right into this. Alright, first one, we got C4RIA, and they say, Superman's costume looks better without the red trunks. All he needs there is a red belt with a splash of yellow in the belt buckle. I gotta disagree with you, I can understand this argument when they're talking about Batman, I don't agree with it, but I can get behind it. But Superman needs the trunks, and I personally really like the design philosophy behind David Cornsweat's Superman costume. When they were designing that suit, the idea was that, he wanted to look approachable, more friendly, like a firefighter. And so having the red underwear on the outside really helped that idea and helped with that vibe. So I really think that it is just necessary for his character, and omitting the trunks is just a huge mistake. So, sorry, don't agree, moving on. Alright, next up, Leo Malden says, Lex Luthor is a little overused in live-action Superman media. I really love the character, but it would be nice to see other villains like Brainiac, Toyman, and Parasite get some love. Yeah, there are so many other villains, and Lex Luthor is always used, but you could go with like Brainiac, Doomsday, there's Bizarro, Metallo, Mongol, Darkseid, Mr. Mxyzptlk, Parasite, Cyborg Superman, Toyman, there's Livewire, Ultraman, Lobo, Superboy Prime, you got Ultra Humanite, the Eradicator. There's so many options, and I'm not really worried about it because James Gunn is a director that loves to use underrated characters. He brings these C and D list villains to the forefront, and he makes them fan favorites with the general audience, and I really just think that he's gonna do that, so I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, Lex Luthor is used a little too much. Alright, next up, August Hillbilly says, I liked Henry Cavill's Superman suit better than David Cornsweat's. I felt like the S on David's was too bland and like a corporate logo. Henry's was cool in my opinion. I see what you mean, but that was always my problem with Henry's suit, is it felt really alien, and I know that that's the point in the movie, but Superman as a character, being seen as a human being is something that's really important to him, and so him wearing an alien textured, oiled up slimy body condom it just doesn't sit right with me. It really goes against what the character is supposed to be in my opinion, so I gotta disagree with this one, sorry. Alright, the future mangaka 3302 says, I tried so hard to think of one but couldn't. Wanted to participate in the community but couldn't, so I'll just say keep up the good work, love your videos. Now, I'm a person who really appreciates your guys' support, and it really means the world to me, so I'm gonna feature you anyway. Thank you, you're awesome. Moving on. Alright, next up, Savannah Dawn 6002 says, Superman should be the leader of the Justice League. He is a way better person to take charge over Batman. Superman knows how to motivate a team and get their spirits up. Batman is only really a good strategist. Yeah, also, he's a really good wallet.
Of course, the Justice League will pay for the damage.
Yeah, Superman is just a better leader in my opinion. Batman doesn't really function well outside of his own Bat family and his own little world. Plus, I like it better when Batman is a part-timer on the Justice League, he's not really even a full member. He always kind of has one foot out of the Justice League, ready to dip just in case something goes wrong,
Turn yourself over into U.S. custody, along with the rest of us.
This is the single dumbest plan I've ever heard.
You have to come with us, Bruce.
I don't have to do anything. I'm a part-timer, remember?
Alright, next up, Trayvon Purnell 0814 says, Man of Steel has a Superman that goes against all of what Superman is supposed to represent. A friend, someone who values life of all kind and willingly lends a helping hand. Yeah, that was my main issue with Man of Steel and that version of Superman. He doesn't even really want to be Superman. Okay, Clark Kent is supposed to go through life. He's growing up. He's trying to find his purpose, what he's supposed to be doing. And he, comes to realize that helping people is something that he's really good at, something that he loves to do. So he chooses to become Superman, He makes that decision and he loves being Superman. But Henry Cavill's Superman doesn't really even want to do it. Everyone around him is like, oh, you're going to be a god to them and you need to save mankind and, blah, 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 blah. And, Henry Cavill's Superman is like, do I really want to do that? It's just kind of sad and depressing, and nobody wants to watch that, Alright, next up, Adam Stringfellow 9741 says, I think that canonically, Brainiac should always have a major role to play in the destruction of Krypton, as Superman the Animated Series and My Adventures of Superman explored and delivered phenomenally. Yeah, I really think that that is such a great, idea to explore, especially in today's day and age with AI. Like, if you remember in STAS, Brainiac was the AI that, kind of helped run the government, and it was the main tool used by the scientists. And so when Jor-El noticed that, they had been extracting resources from the planet's core way too quickly, and, the planet was on the brink of destruction, the government asked, the all-powerful, all-knowing AI Brainiac, hey, are we in danger? And when Brainiac was like, no, we're fine, they went after Jor-El. They called him a traitor, they tried to arrest him, and that's what, led Jor-El to shoot his son out into space.
And leaves no doubt that the planet's core is undergoing a mounting chain reaction that will eventually destroy Krypton.
Ask Brainiac.
Yes, Brainiac, he'll tell us.
That's just a really good idea, exploring that kind of story now. AI is kind of scary, and Brainiac is kind of scary too, so I would like to see that. Good take. Turtle PNG03 says, David Cornsweat is the best live adaptation of Superman. Yeah, I understand that there's the Snyder fans, and there's some people that will always want to hold on to Christopher Reeve. I understand that, but I think overall, David's the best. He's the GOAT. Moving on. All right, next up, A. Flano says, the hate or dislike of Superman as a character is unwarranted. I think anyone who hates on his character just hasn't picked up a comic before. Dude is the GOAT. You don't have to love the character, but he's pretty solid. I feel like people who hate on him for no reason and say that he's just boring, they're missing the point, okay? Superman is not supposed to be super relatable like Batman or Spider-Man. Superman is supposed to represent a better tomorrow, the ideal, good person that we all have the capacity to be, but we're just not there yet, but we should look up to Superman and try to inhabit the characteristics that he has. He is an inspiring hero. He's not really a relatable one. So I feel like they're kind of missing the point. But yeah, pretty good take. All right, next up, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing this, but Matt Yosjenik 8160 says, I don't like the classic look. I prefer some experimentation like the black and red logo. I can kind of get behind that. I don't really like the red and black Kingdom Come logo that much. It's not my favorite. But, I like the early 2000s black and red logo, and the Max Fleischer suit, absolutely peak, beautiful. So I'm always open to see something new. That'd always be cool. All right, next, Manku Edit says, the new 52 suit is the best Superman suit. Sorry, bro. I gotta heavily disagree with you on this one. I don't like the collar. I don't like the red belt. I don't like how far, down the sleeves go onto his hands. I don't like the random lines everywhere. It's just not my cup of tea. I think the suit looks way too armor-like, and, putting it above the classic Superman suit is just, it's kind of crazy work. So, sorry, bro. All right, next up, Marco1505 says, Superman needs better content outside of comics and TV shows. I'm talking about Batman, Spider-Man level stuff. Even Wolverine has Logan and is now getting a new video game. Yeah, I think Superman needs way more things, I know that video game developers are always, terrified of the idea of making a Superman game because they think it's impossible, but, they haven't really given it a good, faithful try since 2006. And, with today's new, technology, I feel like they could definitely do it. They could do something. And they're all, afraid of losing money, but most of these game studios are, putting out flops anyway, so they're always losing money. Why not try, And most of the time, they're just canceling projects that we actually want to see, like the Wonder Woman game. So, are we really surprised that they're not doing anything with Superman? But yeah, Batman and Spider-Man have so many TV shows and animated movies and games and all this stuff, and Superman gets nothing. So, it's kind of depressing. I agree with you. All right, Absolute Lemon says, might be hotter than the sun, but I think James Gunn's Superman should continue being good, but eventually I think Superman should turn evil for a bit. Kind of like Injustice or Zack Snyder. I don't think it's possible to be all-powerful and be all good. Alright, no offense to you, buddy, but I feel like you're projecting some religious views onto Superman, and I really don't like that. He's not Jesus, okay? As I said before, Superman is just supposed to represent what the ideal good person should be like, and we're supposed to look up to him. It doesn't have to be that deep. He's a fictional character, and I think we're all tired of seeing evil interpretations of Superman. There have been so many of them in the last decade, and I think we're all just kind of done, So, sorry. All right, next up, Andre Paul 3483 says, George Newbern and Tim Daly should always be acknowledged the same way as Kevin Conroy. These two held the torch for being the longest running Superman actors too. Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, Kevin Conroy is the absolute GOAT when it came to, you know, changing the game for his character. But, you know, I feel like George Newbern and Tim Daly should definitely get more recognition. And another good example would actually have to be Christopher Daniel Barnes as Spider-Man, because, you know, they never talk about him, and he's not even in the Spider-Verse movies, but he completely just, you know, redefined what Spider-Man is supposed to sound like. Crazy work. But yeah, I mean, I think I actually like Tim Daly more than George. You know, I know that there's that, you know, amazing speech he gives in JLU, but I think Tim Daly just has a better Superman voice. It's way more soothing, in my opinion.
I won't have vigilantism in my town.
You tried to kill Aquaman. Why?
All right, last up, and I'm gonna butcher this one. Chin May Murphy 7549 says, super speed for Superman should operate more like a plane, where he has the capability to go very fast but can't think and react at that speed. First, to differentiate him from the Flash, and second, to build on the idea that he has to control himself so no one gets hurt. Yeah, I think I like this idea. I mean, obviously Superman isn't as fast as the Flash, and I really don't think that his brain would, you know, also operate at that kind of speed. Like the Flash, his whole body, everything about him is powered by the Speed Force. And he can perceive, you know, events that happen, you know, in less than an attosecond, which is like smaller than the smallest measurable length of time that we can observe as human beings, which is just absolutely insane. I don't think Superman should be capable of anything, you know, like that. Like, I do think that he should be able to, like, you know, react to bullets pretty quick. You know, he's always catching bullets and stuff. That's pretty normal for Superman, but he should be nowhere near the level that Flash is on when it comes to, like, thinking at super speed. That would just be ridiculous.
You getting any of this?
Every fifth word, maybe.
Alright guys, that's going to be about it for today's video. If you guys enjoyed it all, I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like and subscribe button. It would really mean a lot to me. And drop your Superman hot takes in the comments below. They might be featured in a part 2. But yeah, until next time, I'll see you guys later.